What's going on, guys? Woo! It's Christmas. It's Christmas. That's right. Today is Christmas. That's definitely true. 1000%. Welcome to Paneloids Comic Books and More. I'm Pierre, here with Kyle and Dimitri, along with a special guest, our favorite guest, I might add. In shops this month, she has banger after banger with Spider-Gwen, She-Hulk, and Red Before Black collection. We also have a major FOC on January 12th, the March 25th release date. So we are going to talk about Daredevil #1, big book for you. But we appreciate you being here on Christmas, right? You just decided to go away from family and just hang out with us. We are family. That's what it is.
Yeah. I almost wore like a Paneloid shirt, and then I was like, that's maybe a step too far for being on the podcast, but
no, I would have liked that.
It was out. It was a thought in my head. So
you've said how you got this Daredevil idea and brought it to Marvel. Where and when did this story first form, and what was the inspiration?
Yeah, the story of it coming together is, I don't know, it's a little funny. I was in the offices and I had been like formulating this idea. I had talked to like talent relations a bit about this idea of like, I'm writing a lot of women characters, and they had asked me before, like, are you okay with that? And I was like, I'm not taking on a character because they're a woman. I'm taking on characters that I genuinely like. Yes, you know, I'm actively choosing those characters. But I was like, it is something I want to be conscientious about. And then like a little while has passed and it's like, okay, I'm still only writing women characters. I was in the offices and I went to CV Cebulski and I like had planned this thing that was like, I have this idea of like, you know, we've kind of had this ongoing conversation. I want to bring it back up and say, like, what do you all think about it? Is there anything like within the next year that we could kind of like potentially talk about? And like, I start in on my like pre-prepared spiel, and he just like kind of turns and he's like, do you just want to write Daredevil? And I was like, sure, but can I like finish the like whole thing that I've like been preparing for like weeks to like come talk to you about, like very nervously? And I was like, off the top of my head, like I had just had a conversation with Lee Garbett maybe like the month prior about how that is his #1 book that he wanted and the character he wanted to draw, because we have been talking about working together. And I was like, that's like one of my top characters as well. Absolutely, I'd love it. And so immediately I just was like, as long as Lee Garbett draws it, I will write it. And he was like, oh, well, that's an interesting, cool idea. And we reconvened at the summit, and without any warnings, he was like, oh, and Stephanie's going to write Daredevil. Like, do you want to tell us about what you're going to do on Daredevil? And I was like, wait. This was literally 5 minutes ago that this all came together. So, you know, I was talking about working with Lee and wanting to bring in a lot of the crime elements that I love on Daredevil, and working in basically him being a professor was like one of the very first things that I think I threw out there, because I was like, well, thinking about where he would be with the law profession, where he's been with so many of these other weird careers he's had, I was like, it would be something that I can relate to being in a classroom. And at some point in a lot of people's lives, I know a lot of attorneys that have started to be like adjunct professors or teach law. And I was like, I feel like it's time for Matt Murdock to go on that path. So yeah, that's kind of where it originated. And I'm texting Lee under the table like, hey, I just said you were drawing Daredevil. So, and he's just like, that sounds fun.
That's awesome. You're like, oh, hey, okay, we're doing this. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like after that, you know, got together with the editor and had a lot more formal like back and forth on what the story would be. We had like multiple versions of outlines and planning before it really formally came together. But the idea that I was being considered for Daredevil happened very quickly and without warning. And just kind of oddly enough, like it happened very quickly after Lee and I had this conversation about how we had maybe 1 or 2 books at Marvel that we were both like, this would be good. But for sure, we were both like, I think Daredevil is the right fit for both of us together. That's really what we wanted. And we came in as a team. So I love that.
We just saw a couple little small pages, right? So little sneak peeks, and looks awesome so far. I'm sure we can find the blurb somewhere, but we'd love to hear your synopsis of Daredevil #1.
Yeah. So it kind of introduces a new status quo for Matt. A lot of things are familiar, but kind of with a new twist. So yes, he's a law professor, an adjunct coming in to teach contract law, but he's feeling very comfortable as Daredevil until a new villain named Omen shows up. Omen is terrifying, but also a bit sad. Like a lot of inspiration from him came from like gothic literature, and he's still like a very grounded villain though, but he does have something kind of like on Matt Murdock. So he's actually explicitly there for Matt Murdock and not Daredevil. And so that will get a bit tricky for both Matt and Daredevil to kind of navigate. There's a detective story at the heart of it. I think a lot of influences from things like Seven or The Alienist, those kinds of like crime-driven thrillers. And that's exactly the stuff like I started writing in comics. And so like getting to come back to what I think is like kind of my roots as a writer has been, I don't know, Lee and I are having a lot of fun with that. So.
And what a great freaking name too, Omen. Like,
yes.
I love that.
I'm surprised that wasn't taken.
After we were like, we want Omen, it turns out like no other teams like knew about it, but there's a kind of process for like submitting it. So like our editor had gone through like the whole process of like showing all the higher ups, like the villain's name is Omen, everything was cleared. And then coincidentally, multiple other teams wanted a character named Omen in their books as well. And I was like, I don't know what the timing of this is that the name became suddenly like really popular, but I guess we submitted first. So I was like, we get Omen.
Nice.
I was like, we were trying to be like, what is even our backup for this? But we've been so tied to Omen that became a bit difficult for us to like conceive of him being anything different.
I'm excited for this.
His backstory is something that like Lee and I really kind of worked on together. So every element of Omen is so intentional. Like what he's wearing is so intentional to who he is as a character as well. And everything about him feels just like really developed and really to us interesting. Like the full backstory of Omen hits around like issue 4. So you're kind of like teased little bits. And then there's this like kind of revealing element, and writing that has been so far one of my favorite parts of like the initial arc.
Can you tell us how many issues are written thus far, or how many are even planned, if you can?
We got 4 issues written so far, kind of in the editing stage of that. Lee's got 2 pretty much done. We have quite a bit planned. I mean, it is an ongoing, so like, you know, we hopefully will have a long runway. That's our definite hope. I know the market is just like so weird at the moment, so I don't know if it's like good or bad that we're coming into the market as it is. I guess we'll see. So, you know, sales kind of determine that, and if it's viable for us to stay on for a long time. I think Lee and I are really in it for the long haul. I know we have something pretty big planned for like, I think it's issue 12 or 13. There's going to be a returning character that from day one I have told Marvel, like, I want this character. Like, this is my number one character from Daredevil lore that I want to bring in. So yeah, we're excited about that. And I think it's a legacy issue. Whatever legacy like 700 is where we're like gonna drop this character. So
if I had to pick or maybe guess, I'll cut if you make a face at me. Purple Man. Purple Man would be a...
Yeah, no, Purple Man's cool. I will say it is not Purple Man. I have a favorite character that I think should get updated in Daredevil lore. I will also say I do have a list that I kind of like, when we first got the book, Lee and I kind of made like a list of like, these are characters we for sure want to work into our run. We also definitely want to have some of our new cast as well. Like, I think that's important too. Like, so starting off with a character that is kind of our own creation feels very much like planting a flag a bit, like this kind of like coming in and saying, like, we have this vision and this is how we're going to start to build out our universe for Daredevil, and then start repopulating it with a lot of things that I think are familiar to readers. Though, of course, Foggy is 100% in it, and I do not kill him. That seems to be a point severe like trauma for Daredevil fans. Foggy is not dead. When you see Foggy, like page 1 of issue 2, Foggy's having a great time. I promise.
You've been doing a lot of like TikToks answering questions, which is really cool. You've been handling trolls fantastically. I'll just throw that in real quick. But you mentioned kind of a noir kind of vibe a little bit. And I actually was introduced to your work from We Only Kill Each Other. And that's what made me reach out for like our first interview, which was 4 years ago, which is kind of crazy. But can you talk more about like the tone of this Daredevil book?
Yeah, I think it's pretty dark. I mean, doing books, like when I first came into writing comics, doing books like Butcher of Paris and like you said, We Only Kill Each Other, my own personal work I think tends to lean pretty dark and crime oriented, and we're now getting to bring that to a Daredevil story, which is pretty cool. So I think this might be like the culmination of just all the kinds of stories that I love. Past Daredevil runs having a tone I think a bit similar to Bendis and Maleev in that regard. Somewhere on the corner of Bendis, Maleev, and then like Zdarsky and Chiquetto. So it's crime noir book with these kind of superhero elements that are like right at the surface there. And I love that blend. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted Daredevil, is like that's such a unique thing for specifically a Daredevil book to get to do that as a writer. So that's, I think, the tone that we're setting and hopefully going for. And yeah, I think in issue 3, there's definitely a moment that it's like one page, the page is silent, and it is incredibly dark and a bit horrific. So we'll see how much Marvel makes us censor of that page, but hopefully not. So
They're gonna probably back that one page.
just something across the page that says censored. Like,
yeah.
Wait.
So I'm not a big Daredevil guy personally. I've never read a lot of Daredevil. Not because I don't like the character, it's just I just never kind of read any. Are there any specific Daredevil runs or arcs readers would benefit from revisiting before issue 1?
Well, you can jump into ours completely new. We are a kind of soft reboot of the ongoing, so it's a new number 1. We make sure that it is friendly to anybody new to the character while still pulling from a lot of runs that we loved. Of course, Frank Miller has to be mentioned in there. Nocenti and John Romita Jr. I think Lee's favorite of all the Daredevil, which I absolutely love as well. And of course, it gives you like Typhoid Mary. So that's in there. For me, my favorite run is Bendis and Malieve. So like I've mentioned, there's echoes of that. And I really think Zdarsky and Chiquetto is just fantastic. I just reread it. I think there were some gaps in my reading of it, like around the time there's like a King in Black tie-in, and I think I missed the King in Black tie-in, so I just like finished rereading from start to finish all of the Zdarsky. It is fantastic. I mean, I like Chip and I like his work a lot, so I'm not surprised, but it's very good. But again, you can jump in completely fresh to ours as well.
This is probably going to be the only Daredevil run that I've actually read, other than Cold Day in Hell.
That was good. Yeah.
That was the first thing. That was like the first book where I was like, okay, Jeremiah, I understand why you like Daredevil so much. This is sick.
Yeah, we had to ban Jeremiah from this interview because he's such a Daredevil nut. Like, knows too much. I think that's his number 1 besides Stiltman, which just says it all.
Lee loves Stiltman. I will say that. Lee's a big Stiltman advocate.
Maybe there's hope for him. But yeah, he would have took over the interview.
What led to making Matt Murdock a law professor?
I was kind of looking for a new status quo for him, something that would really give us like a cool new way of approaching the character. Immediately bringing him back to practicing law was a bit tough after what some of the previous runs did with him. And while we are still a soft reboot, we're still trying to like be conscientious of those things. So you've got, you know, like previous mayor and all these things that he's done. And it was kind of like, well, this is a new setting for him where we still get the elements of him as an attorney that I think make him really, I think that's really important for him. So he's got other colleagues around him that are like people he went to law school with and students as well. I think there's a tone in ours that Daredevil is very confident and comfortable with what he's doing. And then putting Matt Murdock in a classroom shows that like the Matt Murdock side, he's not 100% confident and comfortable. Like he's immediately challenged by a student who's just like, wait a minute. And like he might be thrown for a minute and then he has to like try to on his feet be like, here's how I can start to like spin this and like work this. And there's like a line in there as well where of course I had to work in like a man without fear line, and he's talking to another colleague and the colleague is basically telling him like, you're the one with the grade book, and if you're the guy with the grade book, you're a man without fear. And it's just like this kind of like blending of the two moments, which I love, but it gives them a whole new cast to work with. It gives them a new setting. I worked on multiple college campuses as a professor, so I think I also have like a cool experience to bring in about different things like fears of working on a campus. Currently, there are quite a few, but also like the cool elements of teaching and getting to connect with a student over something that Matt Murdock genuinely loves. So he's going to have an array of experiences. Also, other professors, getting to interact with them, women. He might like some of the other professors. So it gives like a really cool new setting, new characters, and we're building to something pretty big within that college setting as well.
I like it. I think you said it best. It creates a landscape where you can kind of really just make it your own. I love it. Is there anything you could tell us about the new villain that's targeting Matt?
I never know how much Marvel lets us like say about it, but essentially he is a character with a super cool mask who is looking for Matt Murdock. He says because he has seen something about Matt Murdock's future and he needs to talk to Matt Murdock, but he runs into Daredevil while looking for Matt Murdock and it doesn't go well for either of them. And so then it kind of becomes two mysteries essentially that are going to be happening parallel. One is a new detective character. The detective character is very young and a bit egotistical, but he's been promoted because essentially a lot of these officers and detectives were being paid off through crime, like Kingpin had them in his pocket or something. And once you clean house, it's like, well, we're kind of in need of more detectives. So he's been promoted pretty young to this position because he is so by the book and he was absolutely in nobody's pocket. Like that wasn't even a consideration for him. And so he's investigating a string of murders while at the same time Matt Murdock is trying to figure out who this person is that has been looking for him, that came to his apartment, and these two things eventually start to intersect in a way that Daredevil and Matt Murdock were not expecting.
Very curious about this mask now.
It's like, I want to show it off. Like, I keep telling Leo, I was like, we need to like figure out a way to like 3D print this mask or something. It's so cool. Really cool design. So hopefully Marvel will let us post it soon.
Of all the legacy characters you've written now, like where does Daredevil kind of fall from like difficulty, but also like achievement, I guess you could say?
I mean, for me, he might be like pretty high up there. I think I'm coming at that from just the position of this is a character I love so much. So for me, this is like my probably top Marvel character. So for me, that means a lot. Also having kind of Marvel listening to that and knowing that I like the character, knowing that's something I was interested in. Also making it work to have Lee on the book as well. Because, you know, it could absolutely be me saying like, yeah, I'll write it if Lee Garbett draws it. And they're like, yeah, no, like that's too complicated or we can't make this work. No, they made it all work. And so Marvel kind of putting that together, the way it all happened, it's pretty awesome. And I think I'm at a point now where what matters most to me on the book really is the team itself. That can make or break any story you want to tell. So getting to have two people I feel incredibly like close with in Lee Garbett and then also Aaron Cooter that I work with on She-Hulk. Those kind of relationships make the stories just substantially better. To get to have those relationships and work with people like that is pretty awesome.
Any behind the scene that you can give with your collaboration process with Lee Garbett?
Yeah, I talk to Lee more than my own mother. And I even have like on the, let's see, on the back of my phone, always, I have the London time up so that I can always know like when it's too late, like, oh, now it's like midnight in England, so I'm not going to bother Lee or something, but I keep track of it. I mean, this is somebody that I've been friends with for a while. We've talked repeatedly about working together and kind of finally found the in on something that we were both so excited to take on. And like, I think Lee and I always sensed we'd collaborate well together. And then now we're like, oh yes, we do collaborate well together. It's fun. Like, it's just at the end of the day, it's like a really fun, positive thing to get to go back and forth with him. We talk story together. I send him things that I'm working on and, you know, ask how he would approach the scene or something from his point of view. And then that might dictate how I'm writing it. So at the end of the day, I think it makes what the reader gets to hold in their hand a much stronger story because of that. Because I don't think it's necessarily like the typical like kind of conveyor belt way that comics get made of like it's just going from person to person. Like we're all so involved from the get-go that, you know, when he gets something, I can be like, oh, well, we had a conversation about this scene. So like we talked about it for an hour and you kind of know how to approach it now. So I'm going to let you do your thing. And that's cool to see.
Congrats on the finale issue of Grimm and on the animated show announcement. I know it's early, but is there anything that you can tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I met with Netflix, I think back in July, like around San Diego time. And it was funny to have a meeting with them and start to talk about like my own work and have Netflix team members jump in and be like, oh, and then this happens or this happens. I'm like, does it? Like, do you know my own book like better than me? Like they're so well versed in the universe. And it really was a discussion of like what's most important to myself and Flaviano. And we talked a lot about the music, which I think is cool, and their vision for what it could become. Also very cool, you know, talking about their success with something like K-pop Demon Hunter and this animated style, but also the people that are involved. So like what I know from that is the Wednesday Addams team and then the director from Love, Death and Robots were both separately interested in doing Grimm. And then Netflix kind of, I guess, had this idea of like, what if all of us did it together? Like, what if it's like Netflix, the Wednesday Addams people, like kind of spearheading it with the Love, Death and Robots team directing? And I guess everybody agreed. So yeah. And then Flaviano and I will be co-executive producers on the project and involved, I guess, as it moves forward. So it's apparently like in development, and I don't know how long those things take, but probably a while. But it'll be very cool. I trust what they want to do with it.
Immediate goosebumps, I gotta say. Just knowing that whole team really actually is coming together, it's like, damn. Like,
yeah,
this is a big project.
We were all so interested in it too, like enough to sit down together and say, like, let's work this out with everybody involved is very cool. Yeah, not something that's expected, but I also didn't hear about it until it was a little bit further along. So like when I get the call, it's like, okay, all these people have come to the table and they've decided they all collectively want it together, and here's what they're going to do with it. So yeah, they're all signed on to work on it. That's neat. I mean, the amount of things I've done in Hollywood, it's like an iceberg. Like the amount of stuff that's like under the water that nobody sees, it's like there's so much stuff, but then it's like I hope that something will be above the water. And so like I hope the show gets made, I hope it gets on television, and I'm just very impatient. But I also like the way that it was handled was like I didn't know about anybody's interest like years ago. I guess when they expressed interest, I only knew once they were ready to sign a deal with me. And I was like, that's the way I like it. Like don't make me like wait or like dangle me for like a year. Like you're like, okay, we're all ready to sign a contract. I'm like, oh, didn't know anybody was interested, thanks. Like for somebody so impatient, I like that. That's a nice way of doing it.
You got me with the Springsteen references in the first few issues right there, but it's been a favorite of all of ours for a while, so this is amazing, amazing news. And I mean, you couldn't deserve it anymore. I mean, it's so well deserved, but very exciting. And speaking of what deserves a show, Endeavor, and not to compare it, but like just the vibe I got from it, I kind of felt like a little bit of like a Yellow Jackets. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen that for sure.
I could see it as a TV show. Maybe this one would be live action.
It's a pretty dark story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things that I feel like so much planning going into like who these characters are and then what gets shown. I still think it's like a very tight, I think succinct, really cool, like I mean it's 3 distillery issues, which is like what, 6 regular sized issues, but it's probably one of my favorite creator owned things I've done, just in terms of like it is from start to finish. You know, Mark and I have created something again super intentional, and I think the more I get into comics, the more I realize like space is so important because you only have so much of it. So if every bit of dialogue, everything that Mark draws, every little piece of it being that intentional, it just feels like when I go back and reread like the full however many pages this ended up being, it's like this is a real like, you know, something I think we're both proud is a weird word given what happens in the story, but something we're very happy with how it came together. Both of us are, so that's good.
Yeah. The first issue, I was just like, damn, we're doing this. Okay.
Yeah. But it shows your range too. Like it shows your range of like more colorful superhero stuff to like, I mean, I don't even know if horror is the word. It's more just like shock at a point. But can you give any hints towards what's to come? I know like talking about issue 3 is, you know, the third act in a sense. So
Sure.
Without spoilers, the best you can.
I mean, I think it's really a matter of like, as the children are out there longer and really everything about what they knew is kind of taken away. Like this idea that you had every kind of construct from like a bedtime to homework to larger things like taxes. And they're all like, every single element of that is a lie to whatever understanding children of different ages can understand. That they are all sensing that, and they all are going to have a very different reaction to that. Particularly the boys, Carson and Roy, are going to have pretty dramatic reactions to what's happening, and I think some of it a bit unexpected. Yeah, and of course filtered through Via, the main character, Victoria. I think she's giving a very interesting perspective on it as we move forward as well. I don't know how much more I can say. It is very spoilery. Like Mark and I talk about this in terms of like what pages can even be shared, because we're like, oh, can't be that page. You
also have been killing it with Spider-Gwen for a while. The recent More Grounded relaunch has been fantastic. Can you tease anything of what's to come?
Yes, a very big classic Spider-Man villain is to come. So I believe like just recently the Tantrum arc kind of wrapped up, which we had a lot of fun with. I wanted to do something that brought in a new villain, and also just her suit as a symbiote hadn't really been touched on in so long that a lot of people didn't even remember that the suit itself was a symbiote. So doing something with that felt necessary. kind of giving her this new status quo. And then also we're going into this kind of big classic Spidey arc with one of my favorite villains of all time. And this villain's like reason for doing what they're doing. It's very interesting to me. So I'm excited about that.
I'm going to throw a name out there. And
Okay.
if you react, it's okay. Is
Okay.
it Purple Man?
No, it
No,
is
not Purple Man on this one.
I'm not currently writing any Purple Man, but the Purple Man and Jessica Jones storyline is just like, oh man. I mean, it's one of like the deepest Marvel comic storylines out there. And I mean, saying I like Purple Man is a little tough, but I would say this is like a very classic villain, and getting to bring them into a very modern story that I think we're telling with Spider-Gwen is like part of the clash that's about to happen, and very comic booky but still grounded.
Planet She-Hulk has been very cool. What can you
Thank
say
you.
about her upcoming issues?
It is one of my favorite books to work on. What can I say about the upcoming issues? There's some twists coming up that even the creative team, I got some notes like, damn you for this. And, you know, I think it'll impact readers. A lot of cool She-Hulk fighting and smashing. And we did tease Jack of Hearts will be making an appearance. So he'll play a pretty big part in the story moving forward as well.
I'm in. Again, another character. She-Hulk. Wasn't a fan.
I'm glad you admitted that. I was going to call you out for that. Of like, Pierre's never even
Never.
considered.
But now I want to read all She-Hulk because like you've created this whole new like thing for me. I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that one too is interesting because when I was in the room for like the Imperial pitch and the spin-off stories, and it was like, you know, who wants to write these? There was another one that I was like, well, if I did one, it would maybe be that one. And I don't know, I wasn't like jumping at it, but then just like unintentionally, I was thinking a lot about the She-Hulk book. Like over the next couple of days, it just started to like kind of fill out in my mind about this like very new take on how this superhero attorney would be on this planet and like what this would look like. And I think it was like the last day of being that I was in the Marvel offices. I did say like, I think I could do this one. Like, I think I've got this idea. And like, if you guys don't like it, like, obviously you can be like, but it went well. And it was kind of like this similar thing for Aaron, which was, he was like, oh, I don't know about being a part of a spinoff from an event. And like, and I get that as well. And then they sent him like what we were planning to do. And Aaron was like, oh, I want to do this. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I like that. So it's nice.
It's still very much its own thing, though. Like, you can skip the event and it's still,
Yes.
you did a good job of setting that up, because I definitely skipped the event.
As far as events go and reading his scripts as they were coming in for Imperial, I thought they were really cool, especially issue 1. I remember getting sent issue 1 script for Imperial and reading it and just going like, God damn it, Jonathan. Like, it's so well written that like, even from a script stage, you're just like, like, screw you. Like, how are you so good at this? So I mean, that made it exciting too. Like reading that first script when it came in and seeing the She-Hulk stuff and also working alongside him is pretty fun and funny, because I really love the message that I got one day after we started working on it, that I just got a message from Jonathan that's like, hey, I gave Hiro Kala 5 wives. And editorial is like, so do you want to like name and design the 5 wives on your side, or do you want Jonathan to? And I was like, I guess us. Like, you know, I talked to Aaron and Emilio, who drew the like prequel, and they were all kind of like up for making those 5 wives like a really core part of our story. And I was like, all right, good, then just go ahead, Jonathan, give us 5 wives, we'll make it work.
I think the dialogue between all the wives and her, I mean, you do such a great job of it. And it's funny because obviously we know you, we've talked to you a few times. So I can see your sarcasm in a lot of the conversations, and just like She-Hulk kind of looking at the audience talking. I'm like, this is just Stephanie. This is just Stephanie talking to us right now.
Right. Well, when you get a character that breaks the fourth wall like that, that is a lot of fun. And also, out of any of the like more maybe comedic or sarcastic characters I've written, I think Jen is maybe the most like me. I've written Harley Quinn for a long time, and I love Harley. But Harley is definitely, you know, there are elements to Harley that I totally understand, and I love writing in her voice. But Jen is, I think, a lot closer to I think, where my own sense of sarcasm falls. So there are some jokes that were taken out, sadly. Any jokes that were at the expense of the corporation get taken out, which I totally understand and anticipate that they will be, but I try my best anyways. I'm like, maybe this one will be the one that they're like, oh, it's so funny that we don't mind that you're making like fun of like corporate comics. But I mean, that's part of the fun. Like, I love those comics. I work on them, and I like poking fun at the thing that I love doing too, because there's absolutely a way to. And it's not that I don't think they have a sense of humor, but I totally understand where legal is coming from, and I anticipate it happening. I think an issue, maybe it's the prequel, there's a lot of like running jokes about Beauty and the Beast in there, and some of those got toned down a little bit, but that's fine. The core concept has stayed.
And you are writing 2 lawyers now, so if anything, you can compete with legal.
Absolutely. Yes, that is very true.
Would you rather have spider powers and be in a rock band, be the descendant of the Grim Reaper and inherit the throne, or possess the power of the Phoenix Force?
I think spider powers and a rock band. I think that would be fun, even though I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of the feeling of falling. So I think that would be something to get over. But from playing that Spider-Man video game so much, and just the way it feels to like swing through the city is just really cool. So I'd go with that. And I like music, so seems like a good pick.
That was my guess of what you were going to pick.
I feel like Reaper matches the aesthetic more, but I don't know. I think even Jess in the book is like, these dead people like complain a lot. So.
You work on a lot of things. We obviously can't talk about all of them. Maybe there's some things you want to mention, or maybe some things that are upcoming that you want to mention. Maybe things you want to tell us before anybody else. Anything you'd like to share. This is your moment. This is it.
I mean, I think we've covered the big ones. I have no more upcoming announcements. I mean, other than maybe announcing some stuff around Daredevil and its release and some signings and things like that I might be doing. This really going to be my focus is Daredevil and the TV stuff that's going on with like Grimm. So I think it's enough.
That's fair.
We're gonna ask you one more time, Steph.
You know something I don't?
Just making sure there's nothing under your sleeves.
Thankfully now, I think 2025 will be a little bit, cutting back on a lot of the stuff I'm doing. I'm spending a lot more time on Daredevil. Not yet sure if that's good or bad, because it's giving me more time to be like, I didn't quite like this. Like I'll wake up the next day and just be like, oh, that line was not right. So it really is something that I think I'm being so precious with, it's a chance to write one of my favorite characters. And, I'm writing it for Lee. Whenever I give Lee a script, I want that script to be like the best thing I've ever written each time, like going to him. So I think giving myself more time on that book than I do normally has been at least getting going a good thing. A lot of planning behind it, a lot of talking with Lee about stuff, a lot of learning contract law, which is not my personal favorite thing in the world, but like that was part of the point of giving Matt that class in particular. And some of the things that will come up in the class regarding contracts is, I think, kind of funny. So
we're all very excited, but hearing you talk about it more now, it's going to be the book. Like it's literally going to be the book for a lot of people. So, and I haven't done a blind bag yet. I think this is what's going to break me. Like I'm going to go hard on the blind bags.
I collect artwork. I don't necessarily collect individual issues. As somebody that doesn't do it, I like this model because it's the same price as a regular cover, and they've put real artwork in the book. So like you could open it and like get Dave Johnson sketches, and I am just like blown away by that idea. I've watched some of the artists sketching on, there are these like sketch covers Marvel made that go in the blind bags. The design for them like really, it made me like kind of emotional because they look like a regular sketch cover, and then when you turn it over, it's a quote of something I wrote in issue 1 like on the back of it. Really cool. Just the design of it is so nice. And I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, that's like such a cool Daredevil quote. And I was like, oh, I wrote that. It's like I wrote that.
That's so funny.
So that was like a really, really nice touch that the design team included. And then getting to see, I've watched a couple artists sketch on them. I don't know like if Marvel will officially release them, but like I've seen Dave Johnson sketching on some, like Pepe Larraz, and just the fact that then the physical piece of artwork is hidden in those bags is like, wow, okay, that's cool. I personally would like one of those pieces. So maybe I'll do some hunting.
It's Christmas. Tell us about your gothic tree.
I've not had a Christmas tree before. I'm actually Jewish, but I was like, I have a really good friend that has an all pink tree, and I was talking about how I'm like kind of a Grinch. I don't like holidays, and she's like, well, you got to get yourself like a tree. Like one of the all black trees would be your vibe. And I was like, I don't feel like spray painting a tree. That sounds like too much work. But no, it turns out you can just buy an all black Christmas tree, which I did. When it came in the other day, it is not pre-lit. So, which I guess would have been the move now that I know that actually putting lights on a tree is so ridiculously hard. I thought I was doing a good job. And then I stood back and there's like all these weird holes of like lighting in the tree. It looks like a toddler tried to like throw lights at it, but I do not have the bandwidth to change it, so it will be left that way. I have like a raven that I got for the top of it and some like Cthulhu ornaments, and it's like all black and silver right now. I even got wrapping paper to match. All of my wrapping paper is either matte black or Edward Gorey like artwork, which I can't wrap well. So it's again going to be like, in my mind, it all looks so pretty, like, oh, this like goth mystic aesthetic, and then filtered through my inability to actually make something look nice. It's like the Temu goth miss Pinterest photos. I tried. There was effort. Oh, I did get like a little velvet, what do you call it, like the skirt that goes under. And my thinking was like the cats would sit under the tree. And I didn't know there were different sizes of the tree skirt. So it's like the littlest. It's not. Everything about it is.
It's your first tree. It's okay.
Again, there's some effort that went into it initially. Like there was a, like, I don't know if it's ADHD or what is wrong with me exactly, but there's like the initial, like, I'm very excited about this thing and I'm going all in. And then I slowly start to lose interest as I'm doing the thing and then like abandon it. So the ornaments have not made their way onto the tree. The lights kind of took it out of me. So it's just a poorly lit black tree with a very tiny like velvet black skirt under it. And that's where we've left it. So
yeah, I could show you a ton of projects in my house that I've abandoned because of my ADHD. I usually stop at 70% and then walk away. It's usually.
It's a wonder that I finish any Warhammer models. It's like really amazing that happens. So
I'm so interested in Warhammer and I refuse to let myself get into it.
I refused initially, and then I started reading the books. That's where I started. Dan Abnett, who also writes comic books and is actually doing one of the other Imperial spin-off books, writes a lot of the Warhammer books, and he's like their lore master. He's a fantastic writer. And so like I kind of got into it because I knew the name Dan Abnett, and I was like, oh, sure, I'll check out these like Warhammer books. It was a bit of a joke. I was like, if I read this and it's really like stupid and silly, like that's it for Warhammer. But I got a bit hooked, read the books for a long time, and then I was like, I want to try painting a little guy, and I painted like one little model, and yeah, now I think this whole thing is like covered them. They're all stacked up the little like to be painted pile. So it's
Have
great.
you done like a campaign yet, or are you still in the prep?
I don't play. That is the one place I've drawn a boundary. It's like, yeah, I like it as like my own. Like after working all day, I rewatched all of Bob's Burgers while painting, so it's stuff I don't have to like fully listen to. Or football, that's the best because I watch a lot of NFL. So like having that on when the game is on and having something to do that's not just like scrolling social media is probably, I think, a good thing. So it keeps me busy or frustrated if I'm trying to like paint something that I don't know how to paint. But yeah, it's fun. It's nice.
We'll have to get you into a fantasy league next year.
Confidence pools. I like those because I like picking. I just like who's going to win a game. I do a lot of those, and I'm typically good at them, but this season has been a mess.
Oh, yeah. No, me and Dimitri are in very deep holes from...
Oh, no.
That's very bad. Very bad year.
I'm a Bills fan, and so, like, it shouldn't be bad, but it's still, like, we're back to that feeling of, like, I actually don't know if the Bills are going to win tonight, which is, after the last couple of seasons, a weird feeling as a Bills fan, so.
I'm a Giants fan, so, yeah.
I'm sorry. At least they're entertaining. Gadaboo and Dart was like, I kept saying, I was like, that should be like the #1 weird, obscure couples costume on Halloween. But then I found a better one. There's like somebody on TikTok, her and her husband, she was Mahomes and her husband was Chris Collingsworth. And I was like, that is the best couples costume I've ever seen. And it's so niche. It is so niche about like who would get that. But I mean, the whole thing is hilarious. And now I've ended up on like weird Chris Collingsworth like meme TikTok. People like imitating Chris Collingsworth laugh, and I was like, this is gonna haunt me in my dreams. Like, I don't like Chris Collingsworth, like, get off my face. It's that and like weird, what's his name, the coach for the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell. It's like weird video edits of Campbell, and I'm like, I'm not a Detroit fan. So my TikTok algorithm is very bizarre.
Sometimes you lean into a joke too much. Like, I'll send Pierre this fantastic band. I'll send you one. It is great, but it's not. And that's all I see now.
Now I get the releases, like whenever they drop a new song. I'm like, oh, Kyle, look, they dropped the new one.
I'll send you one.
We'll influence your algorithm a little bit more.
Sounds good. Yes, that's one of my favorite hobbies, is influencing the algorithms of people around me, like talking about something loudly to see if it will like start showing up for them. It's one of my favorite personal hobbies other than Warhammer painting. It's trying to influence the algorithms of people around me.
That's a wrap for Paneloids Comic Books and More. Make sure to call your shops and pre-order Daredevil #1 before January 12th. Steph, thank you for taking the time to hang out. Until next time, everyone.
Merry Christmas.